You know, I would not wish this art project on my worst enemy.
I should have just done like a really simple art project. You know, like, hey, I found a rock. Maybe I should paint on the rock and call it, you know, rock bending art. No, I had to do the hard thing. I had to do sand, which makes a mess. Lord Jesus in heaven above.
It was such a mess, y'all. I'm gonna be vacuuming for weeks, and I still probably won't get all the sand up out of my kitchen. My wife might be a little upset with me. Hey y'all, I'm Drake and this is Drake Makes Art. So this week I'm continuing my quest to become the world's first Artbending Avatar, and this week we're gonna master Earthbending. You know, I didn't actually watch Avatar when I was a kid. I think I was just like a little bit too old for it when it first aired on TV. But like the earliest memory I have of watching the show was in the lead up to Sozin's Comet. Nickelodeon did a marathon of like the entire series beginning to end. And I caught like the back half of that marathon. You know, I didn't even catch the whole thing. It wasn't until I came back to the series as an adult that I realized that like there was an entire first season that I just missed. Like I didn't know the Battle at the North Pole happened until I was an adult. And so imagine my surprise when I sit down as an adult to watch this series and one of my favorite characters isn't in the first season at all. Like she wasn't even in the second season until almost a quarter of the way through. Fans will know that I'm talking about everyone's favorite Earthbender, the blind bandit herself, Toph Beifong. Since Toph is
the greatest Earthbender in the world,
I thought it was only fitting that she be the Earthbender I immortalize in this week's art piece. In the show, we get to see several different forms of Earthbending. There's your basic rock throwing that it seems like any Earthbender can do. Then there's the more complicated stuff like sand bending, lava bending, and Toph's signature metal bending. I've even heard rumors that glass bending is a thing, so maybe we'll get to see that one day. But not in this video. In creating this week's piece, I wanted to do something that really captured the essence of Earthbending. You know, I could have just painted on a rock and called it a day, but I felt like that would just be copping out. I really wanted the earth to be the essence of the medium I'm working with. And so when I saw a Facebook reel of this sand art trend, I was like, that's perfect. Sand is just tiny rocks. So if I make an art piece with sand, that's probably the closest I'm going to get to using like straight earth as my medium. And Toph does some sand bending in the show. It's not much, but it's there. So I think sand art will be the perfect medium to immortalize her in all of her glory. So the way sand art works is you take a piece of sticker paper and you cut your image out of the back of it. And then when you peel the backing off, the sticky side is face up. Then you pour sand onto it and just let the excess slide off and the sand sticks to the glue. But before we get too deep into the weeds of that, we need an image that we can put on our sticker paper to then cut out to put the sand on. So let's dive into that. This week's line work process went much faster than last week's, mainly because I was able to find the perfect reference and didn't have to do any compositing. Also, if you can tell which episode I pulled this image from, let me know in the comments. Once I removed the background, I traced the image a few times to pull out the major elements and refine the line work so that it could be printed onto the sticker paper. I also made a list of the colors I'd need to recreate the reference and set out to the hobby store for my sand and sticker paper. So before we get going, I've hit a couple snags. I went to the craft store and unfortunately the only sticker paper I could find has these lines on the side that I would need to print on. The other snag I've hit is that these are the colors I have access to. And it mostly works out. You know, I've got like the yellow for the gold accents, I've got the brown for the belt, the light gold for the beige. I can do like her tongue, the inside of her mouth, black outlines, hair, green for her shirt. The issue is that this part of the image is supposed to be like a little khaki doublet, and her face is supposed to be a kind of khaki skin tone. Unfortunately, I only really have one color that will match that. I couldn't find anywhere in the store another color to like that was similar but different enough that you could tell that one was supposed to be a skin tone, one was supposed to be a khaki. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I can cut the image in such a way that no two areas of the khaki and the skin tone will ever be touching. So as long as there's like a little bit of separation between those spaces, like, you know, like a bit of her green shirt is showing or something like that, I think it should be good to not have those, like, I don't think those spaces will bleed into each other. I think that they'll remain separated and you'll be able to tell that one is one and one is the other. Oh, the other thing is that this paper is very smudgy. Like, it'll smudge if you touch it. So this is going to be a very tricky cut job. But I think I can make it work. So let's go. Let's get started. The process of cutting and coloring this piece started out as a lot of fun. There was just something super satisfying about watching all the excess sand slide off the image, leaving perfectly filled little areas of color. And the coverage this process gave was incredible. There weren't any gaps in the color at all, unless some sand bled onto that area before, but we'll get to that, because this process also had its problems. I realized with the very first sand pour that the ink the image was painted on was still very wet. It just wouldn't dry at all, and the backing seemed to have a really strong static charge, so the sand stuck to it like a fine dust. It wasn't as sticky as the actual sticker glue, but it was pretty annoying. Also, I don't know if you've ever tried to cut small bits of sticker backing while not removing the rest of the backing, but it's not easy, especially when the pieces you're trying to cut aren't connected to the larger areas of the backing. Like when I had to cut Toph's eyebrows out of her face, but leave the backing on the areas where her skin was supposed to be. That area was a little troublesome, though in the end I managed to get the job done. Once I had the main art finished, I decided to pull the rest of the backing off and do a coat of white sand over the rest, just so I didn't have all those grid lines on the final piece. And so here is the final result. You know, I would not wish this art project on my worst enemy. It was such a mess, y'all. I'm gonna be vacuuming for weeks, and I still probably won't get all the sand up out of my kitchen. My wife might be a little upset with me. Like, also, it looks good from a distance, but I feel like it doesn't really hold up to close scrutiny. You know, I'll do some close-up shots so you can see what I'm talking about, but like, the coverage is great. Like, there's no little white bits in between those sand grains, and they fill all the space perfectly well. Like, it's really satisfying to look at those just big blocks of color. You know, everything's just like so nice and even. It's honestly, it almost looks like cloth. It's so nice. You know, it looks like cloth. It looks like felt. I was wondering, so I kind of think she looks like Kermit just because of the way the colors worked out. And I think it's because of the texture that this sand gives it. It makes it look like that felt that the Muppets are made out of. That's what it is. That's why Toph looks like Kermit this week. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, I hope you'll give it a like. And if you think I've earned it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button to see more content like this. Next week, we're going to conquer fire. So if you're a pyromaniac, come back and see what I do next week. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time when we'll make something new. Bye.